to the June 25th edition of the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series, brought to you by the National Urban League. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson, president of the Harlem, New York-based diversity recruitment firm East Coast Executives. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Please jump in the chat and tell us where you're from. The Digital Career Success Series, DCSS, is a professional development series that helps members of our Urban League Young Professional chapters and other diverse job seekers develop new skill sets that will enhance their careers through digital platforms such as webinars, Facebook, and Instagram Live. The goal is to provide an opportunity for professional development right from one's computer. If you want more, visit us at nuljobsnetwork.com. Okay, I see the energy in the chat. Today's DCSS features two amazing professionals. We are talking about connecting the dots today, and we're going to connect them with Dr. Jacqueline Minor and Goren Dillard. Jacqueline, welcome to the DCSS. How are you?
I am doing great, Kenneth. How are you today?
I'm exceptional. Please tell our audience a little bit about yourself. Jacqueline, are you with us?
CEO and principal consultant at Minor Consulting. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. It seems to be breaking up a little, but we're okay.
Can you hear me okay?
I tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to come right back to you. Goren, please introduce yourself, sir.
Thank you, Kenneth. It's amazing being here. My name is Goren Dillard. I am with the Urban League of Greater Cleveland. This is one of 92 affiliates serving 300 cities and 37 states. It's an honor to be here. I'm excited. My background really is professional development training here and leadership development, coaching, mentoring. I've been formally trained. There's a lot of stuff here, right? But I want to actually get into some details because I think there's a lot of great information that we can share with your audience today. I'm very, very excited to be here, Kenneth.
Of course, we're excited to have you here. I sincerely appreciate it. We're going to go back to Dr. Minor and see if we can catch in and get this sound correct. Dr. Minor, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's perfect.
All right. So I'm Dr. Jacqueline Minor, and I'm the CEO and principal consultant at Minor Consulting Group. So it's a woman-owned business where we use an evidence-based methodology to identify organizational gaps, recommend best practices, and implement strategic and innovative solutions for complex workplaces. So we also offer career coaching and mentorship, marketing, technology, and travel consulting. So we basically customize HR services that help organizations build stronger and more sustainable operations. So that's kind of what I do. I'm also an employee relation consultant with Ochsner Health System, which is a large hospital system here in the state of Louisiana. So I'm very happy to be joining the show today.
Listen, we're happy to have you. You forgot to tell everybody that you hung out with us last year at the national conference.
That's right. I was invited to hang out with you guys. I also was able to connect with a lot of the goers and also help with some mentorship there as well in that space. So
you were doing career coaching, am I correct?
Career coaching, that's right.
We appreciate you for pulling together and bringing a team of coaches to the conference to support the work we do at the National Urban League. Thank you so very much for joining us today. Goren, thank you so very much for joining us as well. I want to jump right into it. So we're talking about strategic mentorship, specifically the power of strategic mentorship in career development. So Goren, I'm gonna chime in with you because you got your hand in some of this. Talk to us about the power of strategic mentorship in career development.
Okay, well, let's start by asking our viewers and listeners to think about two questions, right? Who's someone who's always listened when you talk, and how does that affect you? And the other question I want to ask our viewers is, who has helped you become the person you are today? And what is the top thing that you thank them for? I bring these up because chances are mentorship comes to mind, right? We're all adults, but thoughts and our feelings about mentorship were formed very early in life, probably in our youth. All right. And these are from relationships that we've had with, athletic coaches, camp counselors, teachers, and preachers. My earliest lessons, okay, on the power of strategic mentorship for career pathways, Kenneth, came from two mentors with very different perspectives, right? Different styles of communication, even accents. One was from the North, the other one was from the South. One was from the country, and the other one's from the city. Yes, these two were parents, and they both valued and believed in learning and development. So they came at me daily with conversation and interaction to, empower my thinking and encourage me to problem solve on my own. But the story of these two mentors, I like to start out with, is one of, instilling, values and having conversations and being supportive. So I'm looking at this conversation today to level set, right? And start out by first defining what a mentor is to you, right? Because in the context of it, we go into thinking that, coaching, mentoring, and sponsoring, are the same thing. Now, they're all interconnected, but they're not the same thing. Okay. For example, a coach talks, to you, right? A mentor talks with you, and a sponsor talks about you. So we want to establish some thinking and framing for this conversation as to, what roles a mentor plays in our life and how you actually see them. So I'm glad you're opening it up.
So yes, we're starting there, and I can understand that. But as when we speak about career development, right, and we're talking about strategic mentorship there, and I know because my parents were very vital in, I guess, preparing me for a career, but I don't know how important they were in me navigating it, right? So Dr. Minor, as we talk about strategic mentorship and career development, please put on the career coaching hat and share with us a little bit about what that means and how people can leverage and navigate that scenario.
Right. So as Goren was mentioning, it's the example of having a sponsor. So sponsors are actually those persons who are in a room that advocate for you, where you are not in the room yourself. So for me, I actually have several mentors. So I'm a mentor and a mentee. And I think that it's important to be able to have both because they give you different perspectives, especially if you're trying to climb the career ladder. So I'm at a position in my life where I'm seeking promotion. So I wanted to strategically find a mentor for me who was sitting in a position that I aspire to reach. And so by doing so and partnering with them, I can understand or have a better way of seeing what they did to get to their level. So it's important to have mentors who are either in the field that you desire to be in, or even from the operation side. So I'm in HR. So operations is still important when we try to align business strategy with people strategy. So having mentors in that capacity can help me as well if these are the senior stakeholders who I'll be supporting from an HR perspective. So that's strategic mentorship in my brain.
Definitely important to have a strategic mentor. just to help you navigate your career and show you kind of what to look for. I definitely understand the sponsor, mentor, I guess, conversation. But let's talk a little bit about what makes a great mentor. Let's focus in on the mentor piece. What makes a great mentor? And then kind of drill down on that. If your mentor is a subject matter expert, why do I consider myself a subject matter expert? So if you're mentoring Goren, why are you the expert in that space? How do you take that on?
Well, I have to go back to some formal training that I had in grad school over at Case Western. Weatherhead program in change management called the MPOT program, where we went through these scenarios for, intentional and positive change, right? And I found out that it's a process. Change is possible in anywhere. You are always starting from, Kenneth, wherever you are. But change is possible, and you have to believe it, but it's a process. And I think that if we look at the science of it, it really starts with, first establishing, a real clear vision, right? For your clients, what are their interests, what are their strengths, what are their values, and defining what success looks like. It's developing, some type of, or helping your mentee develop some type of personal learning agenda, right? Outlining the skills and the knowledge base that you need to, and the resources that you need to, access these opportunities that you're aspiring for. Aligning your goals with actionable, steps. So whether it's building supportive relationships or encouraging self-reflection and feedback, or even, promoting, the fact that you have to be adaptable and resilient. Everything is not going to work out, every time you step out the door. And I was real fortunate to use, I call a couple of young adults in their 30s, as, practice. I want to call them guinea pigs, but they were subjects in research, and we followed, their pathways along. And these were 3 young, self-motivated folks in their 30s, who could conquer the world independently, right? But everybody, as Bill Withers' song goes, needs somebody to lean on, right? So I came in at that role that we talked about earlier, the coach, the mentor, the sponsor, and watch them kind of develop along the way. And it was great to apply these principles, right, of intentional change theory, right, into the coaching method for them and watch them blossom, all right? Because when it comes down to it, as Dr. Minor will tell you, someone that you're coaching really has to know themselves better than, anybody else. You have to know, kind of what you want, but we have to poke and prod as mentors to see, what exactly is that foundational skill base that you're working with? What are those aspirations? And now I look at these 3 individuals. One's an NFL sports agent. Another is running a successful consulting practice on the West Coast. And another one is a very high level job in tech at Apple. All right. But they all started with, techniques where you had to establish a vision, right? You had to get some feedback. You had to develop a personal learning agenda. There was some science and a process to actually, getting that self-discovery, Kenneth.
Got you. Having a science and a process, completely get that. Dr. Minor, I want to bring you in here because what I'm hearing from Goren on a certain level is that your mentees don't necessarily need to aspire to be you. They don't need to aspire to be in a career path that you're actually in, right? So
Right.
What makes somebody a good mentor? And we have here on the slide about being an SME, a subject matter expert, but you can be a subject matter expert in learning. Someone like yourself who's achieved a doctorate degree completely can understand the importance of education. So from a mentorship standpoint, why would you consider yourself an SME, but more importantly, a great mentor?
I think it comes down to building trust with persons that are contacting you to be a mentor. If they trust you, it's easier to guide them. It's easier to offer them suggestions. The other thing is, when you are a mentor or mentee, you have to be able to be receptive to feedback, even if it hurts, because sometimes you may not always possess the necessary skills in that moment to get to this job, for instance. So understanding and recognizing strengths and blind spots, we call them, to get to where you need to be. You can be very good with technical skills, but I find soft skills are vitally important, especially if you aspire to be a leader. So having trust, being open, also looking at developing an individual development plan for the person is important.
So what I'm hearing is a lot of emotional intelligence, some EQ in there, empathy for people and things of that nature. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's right. So emotional intelligence is very important because we as leaders sitting, especially in employee relations, we have to follow or follow the evidence. So we cannot be or base our decisions on emotion or emotional responses. So we have to just remain with a high level of emotional intelligence. And that's what helps leaders to be able to make conscious decisions based on fact or evidence, for instance, in a lot of the things that they propose. So that's important.
So let's stay here, because you talked about employee relations and employee relations professionals. Sometimes they are tasked with, and I know Goren talked about change management, things of that nature, but sometimes people are tasked with designing effective mentorship programs, even if they're not an organizational directive, but it's something that someone's taking under through maybe the work they're doing with, the young professionals with the Urban League, or in particular in their organization. Goren, I'm going to kind of lean on you real quick. How do individuals effectively design mentorship programs? Like, talk to us about what the pillars of those programs should be.
It's a good question. That's a good question. First it comes down to really, having a clear objective and vision, okay, about where you want to go. I mean, it's always the science that helps you start with that navigation. But there's something that Dr. Minor mentioned earlier that is key in all of this. All right. And it's one thing that we at the Urban League have focused on, intentionally, and that is your soft skill competency development, right? So we can have relational skills, emotional intelligence, but those soft skills are very, very important. How do you manage setbacks and control your emotions, right? How do you communicate in a team, and how do you put yourself and position yourself in a situation where you could think critically, all right, to operate as a group? A lot of these areas are now being explored, right? The reality of the situation is now, and I'm hearing pain points all the time from even the employer side, that's dealing with, young professionals that have to be communicated and engaged with a different way, right? You have 4 generations now in the workplace at the same time, and everyone's using technology differently. We're not even adding on the AI and the automation component. You've got a lot of competing interests in order to, for someone who is a young professional to feel valued and to feel heard and to feel a part of an organizational culture, which is very important. So that connectivity requires, sometimes an intentional effort, right? Where you actually have to, be cognizant of the words that you're using in conversations with supervisors or in groups. You have to, create environments where conversations are psychologically safe. We don't say that a lot, but in order for you to be able to contribute, all right, you have to feel valued and heard. All right, and a lot of technology is being thrown into the mix now, as I mentioned. So these frameworks have to have some type of, emotional, social, and relational intelligence baked in. That's what I would say. Communication, it starts, it's the key. I don't know if Dr. Minor wants to add any more of that, but that's top of mind when I think about, different pillars for people to kind of consider, in this framework of nurturing someone into, a professional development space where they could actually, realize their own potential. And just this one last thing I'll add, there was a very interesting quote that I want to read that, Stephen Covey came up with. What did he say? He said, leadership is communicating people's worth and potential so clearly that they are inspired to see it in themselves. That really resonated with me, right? You have to create a situation where someone could become their best self. Now, Dr. Minor can go into this a little bit more detail, right? Because I'm in, on the ground floor at the granular level, but this happens whether you're coaching someone in a leadership role, at a supervisory position, or someone aspiring, right, to get there and develop and package the skills that they need. They have to be able to see their own value and their own self-worth. And how do you do that?
Yes. Dr. Minor, let's bring you in here. We're talking about designing effective mentorship programs. It's the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series. Listen, we will have a Q&A segment a little later in the program, so please drop your questions in the comments that you have for Goren Dillard, Dr. Jacqueline Minor. Dr. Minor, designing effective mentorship programs. So you spoke about emotional intelligence, but are there some pillars that we need to be looking at? And let's do this from an organizational standpoint. If we're designing mentorship programs at work, what do we need to be looking at as far as pillars for that to be successful?
Some of the pillars that need to be put in place would be a mentor-mentee matching design. Also, when you have the mentor and mentee match, then there's goal setting that needs to happen. So people have an understanding of what, I usually try to do it in small bites. So that way people have a 30, 60, 90-day look, 6 month, a year. So that way they can get small wins quickly and feel motivated to continue. And then also for me, I use a behavioral assessment. It's the predictive index, and this enhances capability and outcomes. So people understand what their strengths are and also look at some of their, we call them blind spots. Those are areas of improvement. And that's something that can be incorporated into the goal setting when the mentor is speaking to the mentee. So that way, effective mentorship programs can be designed or should be designed to foster a meaningful connection and to drive that success. So for me, setting clear goals for both the mentor and the mentee is important. And that's including matching based on values and interests and growth areas. So regular check-ins are important, training for the mentors, as well as feedback to the mentees is also important when you're looking at designing a program.
I love it. I think you took us right to where we were going when you speak about how can someone help you navigate professionally. You spoke about this, right? Touch base, right? Schedule, 30, 60, 90. Even working through goals, right? What are your goals? Identifying them and then mapping out plans to get there. extremely important, but you're working that through some of the touch base things. And then the feedback loop that you spoke about. I think it's really important that someone feel comfortable kind of providing feedback even to their mentor in relationship to how things are working. So Goren, with that being said, and we're speaking about, how you can help someone navigate professionally, how can you help them and how can they help you?
First thing I want to emphasize on that, right, is the attitude that you come in with, right? You really have to have someone understand that no one should know you better than you know yourself, right? And whether you're in development, your skill set, so it starts with your thinking, all right? Our self-worth, it's a level playing field, all right? Our self-worth shouldn't be measured by the circumstances, the amount of money we grew up with, all right? Whatever the circumstances are, that is an equalizer. Our self-worth is God-given, but what do you add on to that? So we have to start with, as Dr. Minor said, taking that inventory, of ourselves and not being too hard of a judge, right? On, who we are, right? So it is a process that starts with your own narrative that you define, right? But, you can't just have a dream, okay? It has to be goal with steps. And, in order to move forward and accomplish these goals, you need to, have milestones where you have some wins and some base hits, right? But it does start with, understanding that when you're starting out as a professional, wherever you are, all right, you're going to have to practice in order, okay, to become a better professional at whatever it is you want to do. So you can't just, not accept the fact that, everyone, no matter what craft or profession they choose in life, must practice. And what's my favorite quote that someone had said to me? Amateurs practice until they get it right, but professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. And that was something that was always drilled into me. So leadership and development, I think in terms of that term, everyone has, innate potential, but it just has to be molded, coached, mentored, sponsored, whatever you want to call it. But it starts with, the mentee, the individual understanding that things are possible, and it's up to that mentor to nurture those, positive emotions and aspirational goals in that individual, where they think that they could actually achieve something that they believe in.
Dr. Minor, I'm glad they brought you back into the shot. I want to speak a little bit about this. So mentorship is a tool, right? So mentorship is a tool. So organizations, and you got to understand where my lens is, right? So as a recruiter, as an executive search professional, a lot of times, especially one with a diversity niche, oftentimes I'm speaking to organizations about how they're preparing their talent in general to be successful there. So mentorship can be used as a tool for inclusion, but then also for retention. I'd like for you to touch base on kind of how this works organizationally.
So in order for it to be, mentorship can be inclusive. So when we're looking at strategic workforce planning and mentorship initiatives, we need to make sure that we are still focused on creating a supportive and inclusive environment. And that starts with making sure that every person is represented. So usually we have underrepresented groups in communities where mentorship programs must be equity centered. So this means acknowledging system barriers and designing interventions that address them. So representation matters. So mentees need to be able to see leaders who reflect their identities. They need to say, hey, that mentor looks like me. And they've gotten from point A to point B. So programs should also include cultural competency training. It should include safe spaces for dialogue and pathways to leadership. So that should be very clear when we are trying to make sure that everyone is included. So when done well, mentorship becomes a tool not just for retention, but for empowerment and advancement. So if people feel like they can go from point A to point B within an organization, then they will stay. If they know that their best interest and they're trying to be involved in being able to advance in their career, their professional development and soft skills, people will engage and they will stay with the organization.
You know, this is an on the spot question, kind of. Have you seen that work at organizations that you were working at, or have you been the recipient of some of that even?
Right. I actually worked with students through the Corporate Internship Leadership Institute Fellowship Program. It's called CELI. And CELI actually connects BIPOC students to paid internship opportunities in New Orleans and surrounding areas. So I actually had an opportunity to see this full circle. And I honestly appreciated the opportunity to engage with the students, to see them flourish and be able to provide professional development and soft skills training to each of the cohorts. So with that, in other spaces, I've also led efforts that reduced employee relation concerns by over 80% and increased retention by 92% at previous organizations that I've worked for.
Wow, that's amazing. I love it. I love it. Goren, I want to talk to you about this. Taking inventory of yourself can often be challenging. So, you can't really let the circumstances define you. And often when people don't have mentor-mentee or sponsor relationships, they may be of the belief that they're not performing up to scale, but that may not be true. They're just not part of a feedback loop that allows them to maybe see where they're winning and also assess where their skill sets can take them. Can you talk a little bit about how individuals can stay committed and not let the circumstances define them?
That's a critical point of where we are, all right? Because I'm going to sum it up by saying, it's very difficult sometimes to stay in the moment. I had one of my mentors that used to always encourage me to not carry a suitcase around with my baggage, which meant don't live, in the past, where you're dwelling on disappointments or challenges that you didn't overcome. Don't get too excited or overwhelmed or anxious about the future. Stay in the moment. If you stay in the moment and you deal realistically with your situation and how to create, a positive change from where you are, right? And that is, establishing a vision, creating a learning agenda, right? Going over, some process mapping. Then you have a better chance of, not being caught up mentally, right, in any kind of setbacks that may happen, because we're going to have them. We're actually going to have situations where, it's not going to work out. So one of my things that I always use with coaching, whether it's, a leader at the CEO level or even a team, we start out grounded, Ken, with exercises where we practice the power of positivity and nurturing, positive emotions. The questions that I asked in the beginning: who's always there for you? What's better about today than yesterday? You'd be surprised. Once we get into this mindset, then we're open to new possibilities, to seeing things that we didn't see before. And the other thing that I want to add in with the scenario that we're facing now is looking at conversations that you have, as opportunities, right? And this has to deal with, generational differences that we have, right? Whether it's someone younger or older than you in the workplace, all right? Actually trying to, see things and have some empathy for someone else's lens or point of view. That can open up communication in a way that, you may not have discovered before. All right. So I think that, um, this way of taking inventory of yourself, right, and looking at, things from another lens differently, right? And I'll add this: when you're investing, right, you think of capital investments, and I read this, and I can't remember who, and I'm sure Julius will ask, where did you read this? But I read this somewhere where, there are four main capital investments that we're always looking at. One, when we think of capital investment, it's always financial. Oh, we'll get back to the money. But there are other ways to make a capital investment. There's social capital in the relationships you have, and there's just as value as something monetarily. There's intellectual capital with the ideas you can generate, right? And then there's the one that we're talking about just recently, cultural capital, where you can blend in and understand, where someone's coming from. So when we're looking at diverse environments, all right, and interactions with others, we just can't look at, diversity, as being, okay, geographical, okay, or economical, or or geographic, economic, race, ethnicity, right? Diverse. Now you have to look at age. You have to look at different generationals, and we have to look at that now more carefully because of the automation that's come into the mix, right? I want Dr. Minor to actually get into how AI can actually become a coach and a mentor, right? She knows what I'm talking about because that's where it's going.
We're gonna lean over and go into mentorship in action and speak about that particular topic. Listen, I just want you to know that you can find this and all of the Urban League Jobs Network's Digital Career Success Series episodes on the UL Jobs Network YouTube channel. Please take a look at all the episodes. So, Dr. Minor, we're talking about mentorship in action, lessons from healthcare and academia. This is your lane. Talk to us about your experience in seeing this.
Well, in healthcare, mentors often navigate high-stake environments where there's time constraints, burnout. Since COVID-19, the healthcare industry has suffered greatly with, not enough resources, so we're doing more with less. Even in the academic space, where I was talking to a professor at Xavier University of Louisiana, where I'm an adjunct professor, and they are exhibiting high levels of burnout on their side. So when we look at the mentorship, those things are kind of being pushed out of the way because they have all these other things. There's not enough time. There's a lot of burnout. So the challenge is balancing clinical responsibilities with trying to connect from a mentorship perspective. So in academia, there's also these layers of hierarchical structures and the pressure to publish or secure funding. So in both settings, mentors must be adaptable, they have to be empathetic and strategic in helping the mentees thrive even through these complex systems. So when we look at, for me, I'm navigating or assisting leaders across hospitals and clinics to understand complex HR issues.
Yeah.
So I offer do a lot of coaching to the leaders in regards to navigating the policies, the behaviors of employees. Incivility is running rampant in our areas. So that's a lot of, one-to-ones with leaders within the organization to provide guidance. As we look at, mentoring for me as an adjunct professor at Xavier, I actually offer guidance to high schoolers at Warren Eastern who are actually enrolled in a dual enrollment program with Xavier University of Louisiana. So that's how I got pulled in. And they're a lot different than when I am mentoring grad students through Capella University and their IOs. So there's different layers of mentorship where you have to tailor it across industries or career stages. So the mentorship with the clinical leaders is more on a peer-based level. And that's focused more on that leadership development, lots of system thinking and navigating our policies from the organizational level. So with the students, there shifts to identity formation. Like, who am I? It's building their identity and offering them the ability to encourage them to build up their confidence. So it's different pathways for mentorship, and you just have to know how to adjust the guidance accordingly.
So different pathways, but skills pay bills.
That's right.
The next slide, where we're speaking about that, and we kind of broke that down from a worker's to an employer's standpoint, right? So if we go and we're talking about building a mentorship mindset from transactional to transformational, Goren, I'd love for you to come in and speak a little bit about what that is to you.
The mindset from the employers, all right, is, you have to kind of be adaptable to the change needed in the different talent base that you have, right? Your talent's not always going to be, monolithic. It's not always going to be one type of person from one area, male or just all female. You have to accept the fact that you're going to need a diverse talent base, and how you reach them and communicate with them is different than it was before. You're going to have to accept the fact that you're going to have to incorporate technology different, all right, because you have younger professionals who have grown up on it, on technology. So, my advice, from employers is instituting different frameworks, right? Peer coaching, all right? Mentoring, job shadowing, all right? Something that's going to create that connectivity and give someone who you want to stick around, you want to invest in, give that talent base, all right, an opportunity to feel valued and heard, all right? That's important, right? You can't talk at someone, you have to talk to them and with them, all right? But you have to give them a voice. From the other side of the coin, as a talent, young professional coming up, whether you're aspiring to be in management or contribute in a different way to your organization, you have to, be flexible and adaptable, right? To knowing what the, process is or could be, all right, for positive change to get where you want to be. So that starts with, a framework, all right? Visualize where it is you want to go, what you need to get there, all right? Create that learning agenda where you establish, steps by steps with some accomplishments. Get the supportive relationships in place, right? And seek feedback, even if it's, harsh to hear, okay? Where you need something to develop yourself, all right? Get that self-reflective feedback baked in, and be resilient and adaptable. Things are not always going to work out the way you want to right out the gate. So be flexible enough to, look at something and pivot and make a different approach to it. All All right. But setting goals and tracking the process, right, is really, really vital, as well as achieving milestones to know that you're getting there. All right. So there's frameworks, I think, Kenneth, that have to be placed on both sides of the coin to make sure that someone is able to contribute. Right. And like you said, it takes skills to pay bills.
We're going to jump into the Q&A segment of the programming on that. Speaking of skills, paying bills. Actually, we had a question here in the Q&A, but really it's just information. Nicole mentioned that there's a book, Helping People Change. It outlines coaching and mentor processes taught at Case Western. So that's right in your geographic area, Goren. So thank you for sharing that information, Nicole. So I have a question, and Dr. Minor, I'm going to send this to you. How has mentorship influenced your own professional development, and what lessons have you carried forward as a result?
Mentorship for me, it's about establishing connections. I always believe in being thoughtful and also establishing a rapport with people to have lasting connections. So for me, my mentor-mentee relationship is having someone that is not just in the moment. It's someone who is traveling with me along a journey, whether I'm at a point where I'm trying to excel or just want to give an update to. So it's very intentional and thoughtful in regards to building solid relationships. No matter if that mentee or mentor-mentee relationship has ended, meaning, hey, we're only doing this for 6 months, but I still have someone afterwards that I know that I've built a solid rapport with. So that has helped me to continue to have that connection even after the mentor-mentee relationship has ended.
Love it. Love it. Goren, I have a question for you, sir. So I understand, you representing the Urban League of Greater Cleveland. We're falling into a space where I believe you'll have some information to share here. What are some of the common barriers of establishing meaningful mentorship relationships in workforce development, and how can we overcome them?
I think the barrier starts with, Kenneth, the attitude, how you think about it, right? If you think that something isn't possible, it's going to be more difficult to achieve it. So that barrier is foundational in your attitude, right? We start with, simple aspirational goals. We have our clients who are training to upskill, complete, simple 2-word sentences. All right. I am, I can, I will, I believe. And this gives someone, a basic sense of empowerment. You have to have a voice and you have to know where you're starting from. So everyone comes into the gate with some type of passion about some work, about some, area, but you take those transferable skills and you mold it to do some discovery, all right, and where you want to go. And again, that is a process. So I'm a big believer in, the soft skills that are needed, right? I'm also a believer in the discipline required to actually, get certifications, okay, and technical skills that could help you just as much in your career development as a 4-year college degree, okay? Having a certification in a certain area of competency is just as valuable as a 4-year college degree now. Also, I want everybody to look at it differently. Don't think of the traditional mindset of mentor-mentee relationships. Oh, it's someone older, advising someone younger. It's possible nowadays with what we're going through for someone in a younger generation to mentor someone older. I see it happening all the time. on how to use automation and technology in the workplace. All right. So it's also possible to go into the area that, everyone's timid about and embrace it. And that's the new technologies that are coming out. Go into it. All right. Get yourself on AI. Okay. It is not a strange thing. All right. Treat it like a buddy and use it to, expand your capacity for thinking and problem solving. All right. There's nothing that's going to stop or, inhibit you but you. So I go back to kind of the biggest barrier and inhibitor to any type of positive change is our own thinking in our mindset. All right. Once we take and eliminate, the thinking that something isn't possible, right? Then we can go into those aspirational areas and figure out the process of how to create that positive or intentional change needed, okay, to develop.
Hey, Goren, listen, I'm here in Philly, and I did a training earlier today for some workforce professionals on collaboration, and they're here now watching the show. So we have like 40 people nodding their head, talking about, yeah, that's it. So I can appreciate that. Look, Dr. Minor, in what ways can mentorship be embedded into organizational culture to ensure it's not just a program, but a pathway for long-term success?
I think that the biggest thing is we just should not be checking a box, which is what the question is entailing. So being very intentional, focused on growth, needing to receive the feedback, having mutual learning. Those are key components in being able to adopt a mentorship mindset that's transformational. So
that's great. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, listen, we're going to wrap up the Q&A segment. I'd like to give you guys an opportunity to offer some closing remarks to the audience. It's been an amazing session today. Goren, I will start with you. Briefly, do you have any closing remarks for the National Urban League DCSS audience, sir?
Well, I want to thank you, first of all, for taking some time to invest in yourself, because that's what's needed, right? And I want to leave you with, change, is possible regardless of where you are, at your stage in the career. So if you're in transition, that's a good thing. Right? And there's always lessons to learn from, but change is always possible, but you have to frame it. You have to create a process. You have to map it out. And sometimes it may take, someone to lean on. Okay. And that's where mentorship comes into play. So if anyone wants to stay in touch, I'll be happy to help them. Right. My practice here at the Urban League has kind of evolved even outside, where now I'm working with a team of folks who, do a lot of coaching at the executive level, the team level, facilitation. So whatever you need, I'm here. Okay.
We definitely appreciate it. Dr. Minor, closing remarks, please.
I just want to say that mentorship is going to be a vital component to anyone's career development or organizational success. So strategically designing and implementing mentorship programs can create those pathways for growth, foster inclusive environments, and drive retention. So I encourage everyone to embrace a mentorship mindset that is transformational and focus on mutual learning and development. And I just want to say I thank everyone for the opportunity to share my insights on this topic.
Well, look, we'd like to thank you as well. Dr. Jacqueline Minor, Goren Dillard, thank you so very much for joining us for connecting the dots, strategic mentorship pathways. Great conversation, great insight, feedback. I'm sure the audience says so as well. But listen, typically on our platform, people want to stay connected to the speakers. So if you'd like to stay connected to Dr. Jacqueline Minor, please do not hesitate to reach out to her on our website. That's our business website, Minor Consulting Group. They're doing great work over there. You can connect with her on LinkedIn, and then the podcast. Right. So, you know what? I didn't know about the podcast. See, I'm learning something new today. This is amazing.
Yes, I launched it on Monday. This
Congratulations.
Monday, I've launched it. So for all of my IO psychology practitioners, feel free to tune in, even my HR peeps. This is how HR and IO psychology meets, collaborates, and talks across the line.
I
So
love it. I love it.
YouTube, Spotify, feel free to subscribe or follow.
Excellent. Goren, if you want to stay in touch with Goren, please do not hesitate to connect with him on LinkedIn. He's on LinkedIn. He's doing amazing work there. You can please show Goren's LinkedIn slide. Yes, there we go. You can connect with him at LinkedIn. I know he's there doing some amazing things, sharing some great information. If you want to connect with me, please don't hesitate to reach out and take a look at the eastcoastexecutives.com website. Everything East Coast Executives is there. Also, I'm on LinkedIn constantly. So I hope that you guys take the opportunity to connect with me on LinkedIn as well and on Instagram. All right, listen, I was feeling like I was rushing, but I don't know where I'm rushing to. Our next show is September 3rd. So you can join us for tapping into your superpowers, knowing your strengths, right? Identifying your core strengths for personal and professional growth. Excited about that show, but it's September 3rd. But if you're not going to join us for the Urban League National Conference Career Networking Fair, you're missing the boat. We're going to do it virtually, but we'll also do it live in Cleveland, Ohio, Goren's hometown. So we'll be out there for the National Urban League Conference. That's why we're having a break until September 3rd. We'll do the DCSS live out there as well. But please tap in. If you can't make it, tap in virtually. Attend the Career Networking Fair. If you can make it to Cleveland, I'd love to see you for the National Urban League Conference. My name's Kenneth Johnson. On behalf of the National Urban League, Julius Jones, Wanda Jackson, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. The entire UL Jobs Network team, I'd like to thank you guys for making this possible and making this happen. To our guests, you guys were amazing today, but to our audience, thank you so very much for joining us again for the National Urban League Digital Career Success Series. We'll see you September 3rd if we don't see you at the conference in Cleveland. Thank you so very much. Have a great day.